Chapter 10 of The Crux by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Winifred Assman. Determination. You may shut your eyes with a bandage. The wild world vanishes soon. You may open your eyes in a knothole and see the sun and moon. It must have grieved anyone who cared for Andrew Dykeman to see Mrs. St. Cloud's manner toward him change with his changed circumstances. She had been so much with him, had been so kind to him, kinder than Carston Comment knew for a fact, but not kinder than it surmised. Then, though his dress remained as quietly correct, his face assumed a worn and anxious look, and he no longer offered her long auto rides or other expensive entertainment. She saw men on the piazza stop talking as he came by, and shake their heads as they looked after him, but no one would tell her anything definite till she questioned Mr. Ski. "I am worried about Mr. Dykeman," she said to this ever-willing confidant, beckoning him to a chair beside her. A chair, to the mind of Mr. Ski, seemed to be for pictorial uses, only valuable as part of the composition. He liked one to stand beside, to put a foot on, to lean over from behind, arms on the back, to tip up in front of him as if he needed a barricade, and when he was persuaded to sit in one, it was either facing the back, cross-saddle and bent forward, or, and this was the utmost decorum he was able to approach, tipped backward against the wall. "He does not look well," said the lady. "You are old friends. Do tell me if it is anything wherein a woman's sympathy would be of service." "I'm afraid not, ma'am," replied Mr. Ski darkly. "Andy's hard hit in a worse place than his heart. I wouldn't betray a friend's confidence for any money, ma'am, but this is all over town. It'll go hard with Andy, I'm afraid, at his age." "Oh, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "So sorry. But surely with a man of his abilities it will be only a temporary reverse." "Dunno about the abilities, not in this case, unless he has ability enough to discover a mind bigger'n the one he's lost. You see, ma'am, it's this way," and he sunk his voice to a confidential rumble. "Andy had a bang-up mine, galena ore, not gold, you understand, but often pays better, and he kept on putting the money it made back into it to make more. Then all of a sudden it petered out. No more eggs in that basket. Of course he can't sell it, now. And last year he refused $500,000. Andy's sure down on his luck." "But he will recover. You Western men are so wonderful. He will find another mine." "Oh, yes, he may. Certainly he may, ma'am. Not that he found this one. He just bought it." "Well, he can buy another. There are more, aren't there?" "Sure there are. There's as good mines in the earth as ever was salted. That's my motto. But Andy's got no more money to buy any mines. What he had before he inherited. No, ma'am," said Mr. Ski with a sigh. "I'm afraid it's all up with Andy Dykeman financially." This he said more audibly, and Miss Elder and Mrs. Pettigrew, sitting in their parlor, could not help hearing. Miss Elder gave a little gasp and clasped her hands tightly, but Mrs. Pettigrew arose and came outside. "What's this about Mr. Dykeman?" she questioned abruptly. "Has he had losses?" "There now," said Mr. Ski remorsefully. "I never meant to give him away like that. Mrs. Pettigrew, ma'am, I must beg you not to mention it further. I was only satisfying this lady here, in answer to sympathetic anxiety, as to what was making Andrew H. Dykeman so down in the mouth. Yes'm, he's lost every cent he had in the world, or is likely to have. Of course, among friends he'll get a job, fast enough, bookkeeping or something like that. Though he's not a brilliant man, Andy isn't. You needn't to feel worried, Mrs. Pettigrew. He'll draw a salary all right to the end of time, but he's out of the game of hot finance." Mrs. Pettigrew regarded the speaker with a scintillating eye. He returned her look with unflinching seriousness. "Have a chair, ma'am," he said. "Let me bring out your rocker. Sit down and chat with us. "No, thanks," said the old lady. "It seems to me a little chilly out here. I'll go in." She went in forthwith, to find Miss Orella furtively wiping her eyes. "What are you crying about, Orella elder? Just because a man's lost his money? That happens to most of 'em now and then." "Yes, I know, but you heard what he said. Oh, I can't believe it. To think of his having to be provided for by his friends, and having to take a small salary, after being so well off. I am so sorry for him." Miss Elder's sorrow was increased to intensity by noting Mrs. St. Cloud's changed attitude. Mr. Dykman made no complaint, uttered no protest, gave no confidences, but it soon appeared that he was working in an office, and furthermore that this position was given him by Mr. Ski. That gentleman, though discreetly reticent as to his own affairs, now appeared in far finer raiment than he had hitherto affected, developed a pronounced taste in fobs and sleeve buttons, and a striking harmony in socks and scarfs. Men talked openly of him. No one seemed to know anything definite, but all were certain that old Ski must have struck it rich. Mr. Ski kept his own counsel, but became munificent in gifts and entertainments. He produced 2 imposing presents for Susie, one a betrothal gift, the other a conventional wedding present. "This is a new one to me," he said, when he offered her the first, "but I understand it's the thing. In fact, I'm sure of it, for I've consulted Mrs. St. Cloud, and she helped me to buy 'em." He consulted Mrs. St. Cloud about a dinner he proposed giving to Mr. Saunders. "One of those farewell to Egypt affairs," he said. "Not that I imagine Jim Saunders ever was much of a Egyptian, but then—" He consulted her also about Vivian. Did she not think the girl looked worn and ill? Wouldn't it be a good thing to send her off for a trip somewhere? He consulted her about a library, said he had always wanted a library of his own, but the public ones were somewhat in his way. How many books did she think a man ought really to own, to spend his declining years among? Also, and at considerable length, he consulted her about the best possible place of residence. "I'm getting to be an old man, Mrs. St. Cloud," he remarked meditatively, "and I'm thinking of buying and building somewhere. But it's a ticklish job. Lo, these many years I've been perfectly contented to live wherever I was at, and now that I'm considering a real home, blamed if I know where to put it. I'm distracted between a model farm and a metropolitan residence. Which would you recommend, ma'am?" The lady's sympathy and interest warmed to Mr. Ski as they cooled to Mr. Dykman, not with any blameworthy or noticeable suddenness, but in soft gradations, steady and continuous. The one wore his new glories with an air of modest pride, making no boast of affluence, and the other accepted that which had befallen him without rebellion. Miss Orella's tender heart was deeply touched. As fast as Mrs. St. Cloud gave the cold shoulder to her friend, she extended a warm hand. When they chatted about Mr. Ski's visible success, she spoke bravely of the beauty of limited means, and when it was time to present her weekly bills to the boarders, she left none in Mr. Dykman's room. This he took for an oversight at first, but when he found the omission repeated on the following week, he stood by his window, smiling thoughtfully for some time, and then went in search of Miss Orella. She sat by her shaded lamp, alone, knitting a silk tie which was promptly hidden as he entered. He stood by the door looking at her, in spite of her urging him to be seated, observing the warm color in her face, the graceful lines of her figure, the gentle smile that was so unfailingly attractive. Then he came forward, calmly inquiring, "Why haven't you sent me my board bill?" She lifted her eyes to his, and dropped them, flushing. Excuse me, but I thought—" "You thought I couldn't conveniently pay it?" "Oh, please excuse me. I didn't mean to do anything you wouldn't like. But I did hear that you were temporarily embarrassed. And I want you to feel sure, Mr. Dykman, that to your real friends it makes no difference in the least. And if, for a while that is, It should be a little more convenient to defer payment. Please feel perfectly at liberty to wait." She stood there, blushing like a girl, her sweet eyes wet with shining tears that did not fall, full of tender sympathy for his misfortune. "Have you heard that I've lost all my money?" he asked. She nodded softly. "And that I can't ever get it back? Shall have to do clerk's work at a clerk's salary as long as I live?" Again she nodded. He took a step or two back and forth in the quiet parlor, and returned to her. "Would you marry a poor man?" he asked in a low, tender voice. "Would you marry a man not young, not clever, not rich, but who loved you dearly? You are the sweetest woman I ever saw, Orella Elder. Will you marry me?" She came to him, and he drew her close with a long sigh of utter satisfaction. "Now I am rich indeed," he said softly. She held him off a little. "Don't talk about being rich. It doesn't matter. If you like to live here, why, this house will keep us both. If you'd rather have a little one, I can live so happily on so little. And there is my own little home in Bainville. Perhaps you could find something to do there. I don't care the least in the world, so long as you love me." "I've loved you since I first set eyes on you," he answered her. "To see the home you've made here for all of us was enough to make any man love you. But I thought a while back that I hadn't any chance. You weren't jealous of that artificial fairy, were you?" And conscientiously, Miss Orella lied. Carston society was pleased, but not surprised at Susy's engagement. It was both pleased and surprised when Miss Elder's was announced. Some there were who protested that they had seen it from the beginning, but disputatious friends taxed them with having prophesied quite otherwise. Some thought Miss Elder foolish to take up with a man of full middle age and with no prospects, and others attributed the foolishness to Mr. Dykman in marrying an old maid. Others again darkly hinted that he knew which side his bread was buttered, and first-rate butter too, adding that they did hate to see a man sit around and let his wife keep boarders. In Bainville circles the event created high commotion. That one of their accumulated maidens, part of the virgin sacrifice of New England, which finds not even a minotaur, had thus triumphantly escaped from their ranks and achieved a husband. This was flatly heretical. The fact that he was a poor man was the only mitigating circumstance, leaving it open to the more captious to criticize the lady sharply. But the calm contentment of Andrew Dykman's face and the decorous bliss of Miss Elder's were untroubled by what anyone thought or said. Little Susie was delighted and teased for a double wedding, without success. "One was enough to attend to it at one time," her aunt replied. In all this atmosphere of wooings and weddings, Vivian walked apart, as one in a bad dream that could never end. That day when Dr. Belair left her on the hill, left her alone in a strange new horrible world, was still glaring across her consciousness, the end of one life, the bar to any other. Its small events were as clear to her as those which stand out so painfully on a day of death. All that led up to the pleasant walk, when an eager girl mounted the breezy height and a sad-faced woman came down from it. She had waited long and came home slowly, dreading to see a face she knew, dreading worst of all to see Morton. The boy she had known so long, the man she was beginning to know, had changed to an unbelievable horror, and the love which had so lately seemed real to her recoiled upon her heart with a sense of hopeless shame. She wished, eagerly, desperately she wished, she need never see him again. She thought of the man's resource of running away. If she could just go at once and write to him from somewhere. Distant Bainville seemed like a haven of safety. Even the decorous, narrow monotony of its dim life had a new attraction. These terrors were not in Bainville, surely. Then the sickening thought crept in that perhaps they were, only they did not know it. Besides, she had no money to go with. If only she had started that little school sooner. Write to her father for money she would not. No, she must bear it here. The world was discolored in the girl's eyes. Love had become a horror, and marriage impossible. She pushed the idea from her, impotently, as one might push at a lava flow. In her wide reading, she had learned in a vague way of evil, a distant, undescribed evil which was in the world, and which must be avoided. She had known that there was such a thing as sin, and abhorred the very thought of it. Morton's penitential confessions had given no details. She had pictured him only as being led astray, as being fast, even perhaps wicked. Wickedness could be forgiven, and she had forgiven him royally. But wickedness was one thing, disease was another. Forgiveness was no cure. The burden of new knowledge so distressed her that she avoided the family entirely that evening, avoided Susie, went to her grandmother, and asked if she might come and sleep on the lounge in her room. "Surely, my child, glad to have you," said Mrs. Pettigrew affectionately. "Better try my bed. There's room a-plenty." The girl lay long with those old arms about her, crying quietly. Her grandmother asked no questions, only patted her softly from time to time and said, "There, there," in a pleasantly soothing manner. After some time she remarked, "If you want to say things, my dear, say 'em. Anything you please." In the still darkness they talked long and intimately, and the wise old head straightened things out somewhat for the younger one. "Doctors don't realize how people feel about these matters," said Mrs. Pettigrew. "They are so used to all kinds of ghastly things, they forget that other folks can't stand 'em. She was too hard on you, dearie." But Vivian defended the doctor. "Oh, no, Grandma, she did it beautifully, and it hurt her so. She told me about her own disappointment." "Yes, I remember her as a girl, you see. A fine, sweet girl she was, too. It was an awful blow, and she took it hard. It has made her bitter, I think, perhaps. That, and the number of similar cases she had to cope with." "But, Grandma, can it be as bad as she said? 75%? 3/4 of everybody?" "Not everybody, dear, thank goodness. Our girls are mostly clean, and they save the race, I guess." "I don't even want to see a man again," said the girl with low intensity. "Shouldn't think you would at first. But, dear child, just brace yourself and look it fair in the face. The world's no worse than it was yesterday, just because you know more about it." "No," Vivian admitted, "but it's like uncovering a charnel house." She shuddered. "Never saw a charnel house myself," said the old lady, "even with the lid on. But now see here, child, you mustn't feel as if all men were unspeakable villains. They are just ignorant boys, and nobody ever tells them the truth. Nobody used to know it, for that matter. All this about gonorrhea is quite newly discovered. It has set the doctors all by the ears. Having women doctors has made a difference, too. Lots of difference. Besides," she went on after a pause, "things are changing very fast now since the general airing began. Dr. Prince Morrow in New York, with that society of his, I can never remember the name, makes me think of toothbrushes, has done much, and the popular magazines have taken it up. You must have seen some of those articles, Vivian." "I have," the girl said, "but I couldn't bear to read them, ever." "That's it," responded her grandmother tartly. "We bring up girls to think it is not proper to know anything about the worst danger before them. Proper! Why, my dear child, the young girls are precisely the ones to know. It's no use to tell a woman who has buried all her children, or wishes she had, that it was all owing to her ignorance and her husband's. You have to know beforehand if it's to do you any good." After a while she continued, "Women are waking up to this all over the country now. Nice women, old and young. The women's clubs and congresses are taking it up, as they should. Some states have passed laws requiring a medical certificate, a clean bill of health, to go with a license to marry. You can see that's reasonable. A man has to be examined to enter the army or navy, even to get his life insured. Marriage and parentage are more important than those things, and we are beginning to teach children and young people what they ought to know. There's hope for us." "But, Grandma, it's so awful about the children." "Yes, dear, yes. It's pretty awful, but don't feel as if we were all on the brink of perdition. Remember that we've got a whole quarter of the men to bank on. That's a good many in this country. We're not so bad as Europe, not yet, in this line. Then just think of this, child. We have lived and done splendid things all these years, even with this load of disease on us. Think what we can do when we're rid of it. And that's in the hands of woman, my dear, as soon as we know enough. Don't be afraid of knowledge. When we all know about this, we can stop it. Think of that. We can religiously rid the world of all these undesirable citizens." "How, Grandma?" "Easy enough, my dear, by not marrying them." There was a lasting silence. Grandma finally went to sleep, making a little soft whistling sound through her parted lips. But Vivian lay awake for long, slow hours. It was one thing to make up her own mind, though not an easy one by any means. It was quite another to tell Morton. He gave her no good opportunity. He did not say again, "Will you marry me?" so that she could say no and be done with it. He did not even say, "When will you marry me?" to which she could answer, "Never." He merely took it for granted that she was going to, and continued to monopolize her as far as possible, with all pleasant and comfortable attentions. She forced the situation even more sharply than she wished, by turning from him with a shiver when he met her on the stairs one night and leaned forward as if to kiss her. He stopped short. "What is the matter, Vivian? Are you ill?" "No." She could say nothing further, but tried to pass him. "Look here, there is something. You've been different for several days. Have I done anything you don't like?" "Oh, Morton!" His question was so exactly to the point, and so exquisitely inadequate. He had indeed. "I care too much for you to let anything stand between us now," he went on. "Come, there's no one in the upper hall. Come and tell me the worst." As well now as ever, thought the girl. Yet when they sat on the long window seat, and he turned his handsome face toward her, with that newer, better look on it, she could not believe that this awful thing was true. "Now then, what is wrong between us?" he said. She answered only, "I will tell you the worst, Morton. I cannot marry you, ever." He whitened to the lips, but asked quietly, "Why?" "Because you have— oh, I cannot tell you." "I have a right to know, Vivian. You have made a man of me. I love you with my whole heart. What have I done that I have not told you?" Then she recalled his contrite confessions, and contrasted what he had told her with what he had not, with the unspeakable fate to which he would have consigned her, and those to come, and a sort of holy rage rose within her. "You never told me of the state of your health, Morton." It was done. She looked to see him fall at her feet in utter abashment, but he did nothing of the kind. What he did do astonished her beyond measure. He rose to his feet with clenched fists. "Has that damned doctor been giving you away?" he demanded. "Because if he has, I'll kill him." "He has not," said Vivian. "Not by the faintest hint, ever. And is that all you think of? Goodbye." She rose to leave him, sick at heart. Then he seemed to realize that she was going, that she meant it. "Surely, surely," he cried, "you won't throw me over now? Oh, Vivian, I told you I had been wild, that I wasn't fit to touch your little slippers, and I wasn't going to ask you to marry me till I felt sure this was all done with. All the rest of my life was yours, darling, is yours. You have made me over. Surely you won't leave me now?" "I must," she said. He looked at her despairingly. If he lost her, he lost not only a woman, but the hope of a life. Things he had never thought about before had now grown dear to him. A home, a family, an honorable place in the world, long years of quiet happiness. "I can't lose you," he said. "I can't." She did not answer, only sat there with a white set face and her hands tight clenched in her lap. Where'd you get this idea anyhow? He burst out again. I believe it's that woman doctor. What does she know? Look here, Morton, said Vivian firmly. It is not a question of who told me. The important thing is that it's true, and I cannot marry you. But Vivian, he pleaded, trying to restrain the intensity of his feeling. Men get over these things. They do, really. It's not so awful as you seem to think. It's very common. And I'm nearly well. I was going to wait a year or two yet, to make sure. Vivian, I'd cut my hand off before I'd hurt you. There was real agony in his voice, and her heart smote her. But there was something besides her heart ruling the girl now. I am sorry, I'm very sorry, she said dully, but I will not marry you. You'll throw me over, just for that? Oh, Vivian, don't, you can't. I'm no worse than other men. It seems so terrible to you, just because you're so pure and white. It's only what they call wild oats, you know. Most men do it. She shook her head. And will you punish me, so cruelly, for that? I can't live without you, Vivian. I won't. It is not a question of punishing you, Morton, she said gently, nor myself. It is not the sin I am considering. It is the consequences. He felt a something high and implacable in the gentle girl, something he had never found in her before. He looked at her with despairing eyes. Her white grace, her stately little ways, her delicate beauty had never seemed so desirable. Good God, Vivian, you can't mean it. Give me time. Wait for me. I'll be straight all the rest of my life, I mean it. I'll be true to you, absolutely. I'll do anything you say, only don't give me up. She felt old, hundreds of years old, and as remote as far mountains. It isn't anything you can do in the rest of your life, my poor boy. It is what you have done in the first of it. Oh, Morton, it isn't right to let us grow up without knowing. You never would have done it if you'd known, would you? Can't we do something to stop this awfulness? Her tender heart suffered in the pain she was inflicting, suffered, too, in her own loss, for as she faced the thought of final separation, she found that her grief ran back into the far-off years of childhood. But she had made up her mind with a finality only the more absolute because it hurt her. Even what he said of possible recovery did not move her. The very thought of marriage had become impossible. I shall never marry, she added with a shiver, thinking that he might derive some comfort from the thought. But he replied with a bitter, derisive little laugh. He did not rise to her appeal to help the others. So far in life, the happiness of Morton elder had been his one engrossing care, and now the unhappiness of Morton elder assumed even larger proportions. That bright and hallowed future to which he had been looking forward so earnestly had been suddenly withdrawn from him. His good resolutions, his living straight for the present, were wasted. You women that are so superior, he said, that'll turn a man down for things that are over and done with, that he's sorry for and ashamed of, do you know what you drive a man to? What do you think's going to become of me if you throw me over? He reached out his hands to her in real agony. Vivian, I love you. I can't live without you. I can't be good without you. And you love me a little, don't you? She did. She could not deny it. She loved to shut her eyes to the future, to forgive the past, to come to those outstretched arms and bury everything beneath that one overwhelming phrase, I love you. But she heard again Dr. Bellaire's clear, low, accusing voice. Will you tell that to your crippled children? She rose to her feet. I cannot help it, Morton. I am sorry. You will not believe how sorry I am, but I will never marry you. A look of swift despair swept over his face. It seemed to darken visibly as she watched. An expression of bitter hatred came upon him, of utter recklessness. All that the last few months had seemed to bring of higher, better feeling fell from him, and even as she pitied him, she thought with a flicker of fear of how this might have happened after marriage. Oh, well, he said, rising to his feet, I wish you could have made up your mind sooner, that's all. I'll take myself off now." She reached out her hands to him. "Morton, please don't go away feeling so hardly. I am fond of you. I always was. Won't you let me help you to bear it? Can't we be friends?" Again he laughed that bitter little laugh. "No, Miss Lane," he said, "we distinctly cannot. This is goodbye. You won't change your mind again?" She shook her head in silence, and he left her. End of chapter 10.